Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Project. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
This week, it's another vintage Early Years of SNL. We're talking about Season 2, Episode 3 with host Eric Idle and musical guest Joe Cocker. One of the best hosts of the first era, Brad. Eric Idle.
Yeah, and his first time hosting. This is a good one. Eric Idle's first time hosting. Great episode. Great musical guest. Great John Belushi appearance. This is a good one.
I was waiting. I was waiting for you to say that. Yeah.
I know you were.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a lot of fun. Eric Idle right out of the gates, just showing his comic genius, really, I think, and all of his Monty Python sensibilities that he brings to the show. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good watch.
Yeah, this made our top 5 for both of us. We both really love this episode. It's a really fun one. And we should say Thomas Sena, our old buddy Thomas Sena, is back again, back when he was being a British correspondent, or fooled us into being a British correspondent. So that's a lot of fun. So listen to Gary and I and Thomas talk about Eric Idle, Joe Cocker, John Belushi. Tons of good stuff on this one.
Including stuff.
And stuff is there.
If you look closely, you'll notice that's a picture of me.
No, you look. I don't know who you are, pal, but I'm Chevy Chase, and I got a show to do. Bye.
Wait a minute.
Chevy Chase signs new deal with NBC after successful plastic surgery operation.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime Podcast. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
Here now, the podcast.
This week, we're talking about
You got to keep up.
Season 2, Episode 3, with host Eric Idle and musical guests Joe Cocker and Stuff. This show originally aired on October 2nd, 1976. Brad?
Gary.
Eric Idle's on the show, which means it's a British comedian, which means one thing for us.
Only means one thing. From the SNL Hall of Fame podcast, Thomas Sena is back.
Yes, naturally, I'm your British correspondent, of course.
Naturally.
With a name like Thomas Sena, who else would you get to be your British correspondent? I love it. Thank you guys so much.
Welcome back, sir. So excited to have you with us.
It's wonderful to be back. I'm loving how your show's progressing. And it's actually mostly an honor to be back because apparently I'm filling in for Bill Murray as a guest on the podcast. So that's like doubly an honor.
Well,
excited.
Yeah, there was a small miscommunication.
Details.
Yeah, so thank you for filling in.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no problem. Next time an SNL legend has to back out, give me a call.
This was really fun to see Eric Idle as the host of this show.
Yes.
Someone who, I think we talked about this last season with Thomas, how, everyone held Monty Python's Flying Circus in such high regard on the SNL at this time. So getting him to come and host the show is a huge win, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about last episode when Thomas was here, you knew or felt they really wanted somebody from Python on the show. So luckily this season we get a 3 episodes in, we get Eric Idle, and I thought he did a great job.
I think it just adds credibility within maybe the comedy nerd sphere because, a bunch of comedy nerds and nerds in general, let's face it, like Monty Python's kind of a nerd culture kind of thing, especially comedy nerds.
Great. But, as if Eric Idle wasn't pissed off enough at us now. You have to call his fans nerds.
Might as well just triple down on it.
Yeah.
Who cares at this point? Yeah, all the nerds loved Monty Python. No, but I think it does add credibility, though. I think it did early on in the season to get somebody from Python. And, Lorne loved those guys. And I bet he was just thrilled. And I think the episode showed it was in my opinion, it was a pretty unique watch.
Especially coming off of week 2, which was pretty much a downer after Lily Tomlin. I was excited to see what they were going to do bringing in Eric Idle. And I think they kind of hit on everything you were hoping to with this episode.
Well, and you can see it in the way that they structured the show, at least the first half of the show, where everything flowed into one another.
Yeah.
Like Flying Circus did. It was great. It was so much fun to see as opposed to what it had been, right?
Yeah, which is what we've said about so much this first and second season. It's so much fun where they're taking chances and doing different things, and it's not formulaic as it is now. This episode's a prime example of just, you need to almost watch the whole thing because so much happens from time to time. It just changes throughout the whole episode.
Yeah, and it was referential too, like to British humor and Python stuff. And I like the SNL cast members throughout, especially the first half. It was neat to see them kind of call out British humor in a joking way and have that kind of, I guess, fake or comedic butting of heads, comedic tension kind of built in there that they just sort of poked at. That it was fun.
So Eric Idle at this time was about to launch his own TV show, right?
He had done one of 2 seasons after Flying Circus. Eric had done a show called Rutland Weekend Television, and they had done 1 season already. The second season premieres, I think, within a month or so after this episode. So he's kind of in the middle of it all. Yeah.
And it's kind of amazing that he's like, yeah, I'll come do your show in America right before my show launches.
I mean, it just goes to show, I think, what heights the show was at and getting at. That it's 3 episodes into the second season and you get somebody like Eric Idle, who is in the middle, like you just said, of doing his own show. Sure, I'll come to New York and be on the live show. That, and another, just a story of where the show is at this point. I was listening to Ian Talks Comedy with friend of the pod, Ian. I'm going to mess Ian's name up. I'm so sorry.
Vermagliich.
Thank you. And Ian had a great guest. One of the old pages from the 70s was telling a story how they had seats reserved with no names on it. In the middle of Eric Idle's monologue, Mick Jagger and Ron Wood show up as guests of the show. And remember, this is Rolling Stones, 1976 Rolling Stones. Like, they are huge. It just goes to show like where this show is getting to and the level of cool and hip and popularity it is at this point. But, just a shout out to our friend of the pod, Ian. Ian Talks Comedy, great podcast. If you haven't heard it, check it out.
Yeah, Ian's great. And the show was great, in my opinion. So I think we should just get into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So the cold open starts at the Weekend Update desk. Don Pardo announces Weekend Update with Chevy Chase. And instead of Chevy Chase, we get
Belzer.
What show is he on for? SVU?
That's actually my first note is, does anybody know Belzer at this point? No, right? We all know him now. But at this point, all he was doing, he was the warm-up act for season 1. I don't know if he was still doing it through season 2, but he used to be the warm-up act. He was in the Channel 1 group that did the Groove Tube movie with Chevy. So there's the connection. But if you're watching this live in 76, this is just some random dude sitting in the Weekend Update desk.
Yeah.
And I think that was the intent, though. I think they probably wanted some random dude there and not people pointing at the screen going, hey, Richard Belzer.
Yeah.
So I think it works through the 1976 lens for sure.
And he kind of is Chevy-esque, young, dark hair, kind of good looking. He kind of has a Chevy vibe to him, so it kind of plays.
He's doing the phone gag that Chevy always does.
And no one knows what to make of this. Like, he comes on and announces himself, I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. There is no laughter.
No
one in the audience understands what's going on, which is really funny.
And then the phone rings and it's Chevy.
And I see you sitting in my update sweat wearing my blazer with padded shoulders. Now, who are you?
Hey, how many times do I have to tell you? I'm Chevy Chase.
I'm Chevy Chase and you're not, and I coined that phrase.
Coin this, pal. I'm Chevy Chase, and you're bothering me now. Buzz off, bozo. I got a show to do, okay?
Just a minute here, Volcano Face. How did you get there?
How did I get where?
On the show.
I answered an ad that the network ran in the paper on Thursday.
What did the ad say?
Wanted. Good-looking buffoon who's a flash in the pan.
That's hilarious. They hired you?
I guess that's show business. You know what I mean, pal? Now, let me go. I got a show to do, okay?
By the way, the stills that they were using of Chevy during this oddly cracked me up. I think they were used 2 different kind of still shots of Chevy in the hospital, and both of them, for some reason, just made me laugh out loud.
It's funny, right? Because it's him on the phone from the hospital.
Yelling at the guy.
That much context. Yeah.
Belzer does a good job. I thought he was pretty good.
I mean, I think Belzer is good in this role because he seems so unflappable anyway, just in general. And I thought he played that off really well here. And then he keeps Chevy on the phone, but throws Chevy's picture on the floor and throws the phone on the floor, and the camera pans down to Chevy's face. And then he says live from New York over the phone.
Yeah, they do the same joke basically as last week.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of bummed. I liked the idea of this sketch of this non-Chevy guy doing update, but I was really hoping this was a chance for some other cast member to get Live from New York. Like, you could still do the desk bit and all that. It all worked. But why do the silly phone gag that you did last week again just to give Chevy the line? That was the only thing that bothered me with this. I would have loved to have seen anybody from the cast do the line.
Yeah, I think the pacing, what kind of bothered me a little bit about this sketch was I think the pacing was a little weird. The interaction between Chevy and Belzer was kind of delayed. It seems like it was just kind of odd pacing, and so that to me some of the humor was extinguished that way. And it was kind of the same beat the whole time. It was basically Chevy saying, "I'm Chevy Chase," and Belzer saying, "No, I'm Chevy Chase," and there wasn't much deviation from that. It left me wanting just a little bit more. And I agree with Brad. It was a good concept. I think it just could have been. I think they could have delivered on it so much better.
It would have been great if John walks in the middle and just takes the phone, hangs it up, and is like, "We're done with this." Live from New York at Saturday night.
Right. Well, we continue with the odd trend of the monologue. Eric Idle's already on stage.
Yeah.
On a stool, in a spotlight, a la Leon Redbone, with a guitar. And then he says he wants to play a song that he just released in the UK. And he starts playing guitar to Here Comes the Sun. And he sings it very differently than...
He yells it.
He yells it.
Which is very funny.
And Jane then comes out, which I thought, oh, this is very fast. Like, he yells 1.5 lines, and then Jane is there.
I love that it was Jane who came up to kind of talk him down and suggest we move the song to the end. I thought it was great that it was Jane.
Yeah, it was fun. It was different.
I was a little distracted, even though I really loved this monologue. I just couldn't get over how much Eric Idle and George Harrison looked alike around that time. Like angular face and shaggy hair and all that.
All 60 seconds of it?
Yeah.
This could be our new shortest monologue ever, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think so.
Because it rolls right into the first sketch where we see Dan and Gilda already sitting on the set waiting.
Yeah, so Jane kind of escorts him to the other set, and the dresser comes and starts putting the coat on as Eric Idle is talking to Jane about, she's telling him, we'll do this at the end of the show. You can play your song at the end of the show. And he says, all right, and they're talking, and the dresser is literally dressing him, and then he just turns right to Dan and Gilda and says, sorry, I'm late.
No, he says, sorry, I'm early. They put the song to the end.
Again, this is like a flying circus flowing right one sketch into the next and carrying it over. And
it's brilliantly meta, and I think it's a great way to start this episode. Again, the Norman Lear one we thought, was kind of ho-hum, not that great. And right off the bat, this episode is different. It's throwing you curveballs. You're not sure what's going on. They interrupt the monologue. You're going right into the first sketch. Like, I'm really enjoying this one so far.
Just love just the flow, and I already love how this episode's making me feel based on the monologue bleeding into the first sketch. Just getting such a fun vibe already, and we're only a few minutes in.
And then this first sketch is genius. This is a great sketch.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Idle starts talking to Dan and Gilda about their unborn baby and what genetics they want. And it starts off real, male or female, blonde or brunette.
I believe it starts off, do you want your baby to be a baby? The first question was, do you want your baby to be a baby?
Yes.
Right off the bat, it sets the tone for this sketch.
Yeah. And then the questions get more and more peculiar, getting to the point where he asks if they want a shrimp head, because then it's really easy to fit the welding goggles over the eyes.
Fair.
Fair. Hair color, blonde or black?
Blonde.
Blonde. Good. General stature, tall and thin or short and stocky?
Short and stocky.
Excellent. Right. General texture, fur or quilted?
Fur or quilted?
Yes, you don't want the little nipper bouncing out into the world in the raw when you can use all of genetic science to have him born in his own little fur or quilted bag.
What do you think, dear?
Well, let's take the quilt.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent. Now, general aptitude. You want him to be artistic or a welder?
A welder.
Good, good, good. Mouth, tongue or dipstick?
What?
Dipstick, tongue or dipstick. A tongue is very, very, very fat, and a dipstick is very, very much thinner, and will enable your baby to suck flies out of soda bottles.
Tongue, please.
Tongue, good, good, good. Feet or pods?
Pods?
Pods, pods. Increases the baby's motor skills.
Pods.
Pods, good. Now, what about his head? You want him pressed in flat like a Pekingese puppy? Or would you like it fully curled to look like a shrimp? If he has the shrimp head, he'll be able to get the welder's goggles on much easier.
This is brilliant. This is a fun sketch.
It's so funny. It is so absurd. It's very Python. You know, I wish I knew like how much stuff he brought versus what they brought to him as homages, because this feels so much like a Python sketch with those questions and everything. And I wonder like who played the bigger role in the writing of this, because it's just so funny.
I would imagine that Eric probably seems like with how this felt, it seems like a lot of it was Eric's sensibility.
Well, I mean, I think, remember, Eric and Monty Python are huge influences on everyone on this show and the writers as well, right? So it probably freed them up, too, to bring these crazy ideas and get that input from someone from Monty Python, right?
Gary, I have my own crazy idea. Hear me out.
I live out your crazy ideas, so here we are.
Last week, Norman and Lee are subpar, correct?
Yeah.
Eric Idle's in the house last week. We saw him in the, next week segment.
Yes.
Do you feel this is another case of Diane Cannon, Buck Henry, where the cast and writers maybe phoned it in a little bit last week and gave more attention to what they were writing and preparing for this week because they knew they had somebody like Eric Idle and they had to, let's be honest, they had to bring their A game. And as I finished this episode and was watching it, I kind of got that same vibe that maybe last week it wasn't as strong because they were really focusing on this week.
Counterpoint. If you know he's going to be in the show last week, don't you want to put on a great show for him to see? Don't you want to impress him live that first time you know he's in the building?
I think you do, but there's only so many hours in a day, so many days in a week. Like, can you put two top-notch shows? I don't know. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not a bad argument. I just don't know if they had enough ammunition in the guns to do both. I don't know.
Or is it if you're like a college basketball coach and you're inviting a recruit to watch your game and you guys suck, and then you could tell that recruit, see, you can make us better. Like you're going to be heavily featured because we're clearly not good without you. So maybe that psychologically, maybe that could work. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I'm straddling the points between Brad and Gary. So I'm on
Thomas,
a different
you're
plane.
here as the tiebreaker.
Okay,
Come on,
well
Ty.
then Gary gets.
Oh, what a surprising no one. Thomas and Gary team up on Brad.
I'm not the one who pissed off a British comedy icon earlier today, Brad.
I'm just trying to ask some questions. Anyway, wonderful sketch.
It was a wonderful sketch. I thought it was followed by another wonderful sketch where we come back to Dan playing a disc jockey, and he is playing the disc jockey for both an AM station as well as an FM station, and he just flips back and forth. So for the AM station, he's kind of this crazy high energy morning guy, and then he flips over to the FM and he's way more mellow, and it's amazing. Dan playing two different characters at the same time. I thought this was brilliant.
How high is your anticipation, 30 seconds in when you understand what this sketch is, that it's going to be Dan by himself playing two disc jockeys? Like, how excited are you to watch this?
I was super excited. I mean, I was really excited when it was Dan sitting there in the first place. And I was like, this looks like fun.
Yeah.
Because it's just him. And then he just takes it to the next level.
Hey, good morning. It's Kip Casey. Wake up time. Driving to work, to school, having breakfast, or just doing some crazy morning things around the house. Casey's on the case. I'm Kip Casey. I'll be here till noon with a few words, a little music, and of course the Pasternak Air Hammer Giveaway Day contest a little later on. Here's a two to get you moving and grooving on this sunny Friday morning. An old one from Tony Orlando and Don Candida. Some gold.
Okay. Yeah, that was the Moody Blues for our morning. Morning, as always, the first awakening. I'm Kenneth Wardell on KLOG-FM. Mellowing out your morning with some really good sound. We have music. I'm a little high right now. And I'm looking forward to an interview with Peter Criss, the drummer from Kiss. He's going to tell us how he chose the cat makeup. Here's something new from Aerosmith.
You're right, Gary. Like Dan is such a virtuoso, and sometimes you just have to put him out there by himself and just let him cook. Just let him go. Let him do his thing because has such the gift of gab. He's so fun to watch, and this is just a perfect encapsulation of like what Dan brings to the show. He's probably my favorite cast member of this early cast, and this is why Dan's just so good. And it was a nice touch. I don't know if you guys noticed that the bumper that Dan was playing to start the sketch was "Here Comes the Sun."
Yeah.
So it's just a nice like bleed through from this is all kind of, we're getting common threads here.
Did you notice him playing the antler dance at one point too, Garrett? Yeah.
He actually introduces the antler dance. And then he reads an ad. He reads an ad for the same, I think it was bread.
Yeah.
And he reads
bread,
it in both voices, and like it's a totally different ad for the same thing, but the way he wrote it is it's brilliant. This was excellent just from top to bottom for me.
Yeah, this is a great example of what a solo to camera sketch can be. There's so much going on here with just a guy sitting at a desk or a console, whatever. Like, I know you love the Garrett solos.
I love those for Garrett, just to clarify.
And it's also, as Thomas was saying, to Dan's credit, this is a guy who does so much with so little. Like those Decibit sketches that I really like that he does, it's you put Dan by himself to camera and he can do so much.
And one other thing with this AM/FM sketch that I wanted to point out was just how impressive the production in the sketch was, because you had to have people in the booth playing different like snippets of different songs and play them at the right time for when Dan drops the needle, going into the FM and then playing a different song. So there was a lot of production work that had to happen for that sketch to work as well as it does. I mean, Dan makes it work for the most part, but the production just had to keep up with the timing of it. And it was impressive how they did that.
And even the production design and those kind of things that make this sketch work. Like Dan wearing sunglasses, it's great because it really fits the character and it's cool. But you know what it really does? It allows him to literally read the cue cards, but not take you out of the sketch as a viewer because you don't see his eyes doing that. But the fact that he could wear those sunglasses, he could literally just stare at the cue cards and rattle off all those words he had to say, and it felt natural. And it's like those little things you don't necessarily think about. It's a stylistic choice, but it logistically plays so well to making this sketch so good.
He ends the sketch playing the news broadcaster, and he holds up both microphones and then just reads this, I guess, fourth character, or third character at this point, which is the newsman. And that's playing for both stations. And then that fades into our next sketch, which is the hospital sketch. And they're playing the radio, which is like a perfect transition to keep the show flowing.
They're playing Eric Idle's version of Here Comes the Sun on the radio. So just like this episode, man, it was just so much fun to watch from that standpoint, because the Killer Bees sketch starts. It's continuing the trend of the unique feeling of the episode. And then Eric Idle's yelling, "Here comes the sun." I think it was Jane who was annoyed and asked Gilda can you turn that off? Like, in character, obviously. But it was just such a cool way to continue that thread that we've been seeing in the episode of everything bleeding into everything else.
Yeah, my note at this point is there's so much going on here. I love it. It's amazing. Everything Thomas just said. And I feel like Eric Idle was singing that live. Like, I don't know, but when I was hearing it, I feel like he was probably off stage playing it live at the moment. It wasn't a recording.
He could have been. I don't know.
I kind of think so, too. I agree with Brad here. Brad's right.
Thank you. 1-1. We're tied.
Well, the Killer Bees sketch in the hospital, the Killer Bees come to take away the swine flu inoculations from Jane and Gilda.
Swine flu was a big deal.
Was a big deal in 1976. The whole cast is on here at this point. Dan, third sketch in a row, we see Dan.
Belzer's back. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And John is the leader of the Killer Bees, and he's talking with a Hispanic accent, and Garrett does the same. And then when Eric Idle speaks...
Even before Eric Idle speaks, I have my note, I cannot wait for him to talk, because you see him standing there in the background, and you just know it's going to happen. I just like, my one note is, I cannot wait for him to talk.
You see, they are our brothers, and we take care of our own.
Look, I'll be very honest with you. You see, we're all out of swine flu vaccine. We ran out of it hours ago. We're using some old polio vaccine from the 50s.
Polio vaccine!
Hey, chap, let's just get what we came for and buzz off, shall we?
All right, give me the vaccine.
Wait a minute. Did he just say chap?
No, he didn't say nothing.
Yes, he did. He said chap.
He said chapo. In Spanish, for fat bean.
No, wait a minute. I heard him too, Jane. I heard him say chap.
Wait a minute.
You're not a South American killer bee. You're English.
He's not English. Now hand over that vaccine. That's right. Hand it over or you're going to dance.
Get him, bloke.
Oh, okay. Okay. I heard him just say bloke. I distinctly heard him say bloke. I heard him too. He said bloke. I agree with Gilda.
Look, he's not English.
This was a lot of fun. Again, the killer bees breaking down the sketch in the middle of it like they did in the Elliot Gould in season 1.
And we hadn't seen the bees in a while. This is the first time we've seen them in season 2 and the first time we've seen them get meta in a while. So yeah, it was a fun one.
Yeah, I usually enjoy a fourth wall break, and the killer bees are always really good for that. So this was great by me. And I think, Garrett probably had my favorite line of the entire sketch. He looks at Eric and he goes, Monty Python's Flying Circus, huh? They'll laugh at anything in England, I guess. Like, that's what I love, how they just kind of call back Monty Python and British humor versus American humor, which we'll see again. You know, this was great. Like, I think sometimes the Killer of the Bees get a bad rap, especially as it progressed, because I think those characters, like that sketch, makes for fun kind of fourth wall breaks and interplay and like meta commentary. And I just love that as an SNL fan. I love when the show used to do that and still occasionally does.
So then they pan up to the audience actually and did another Chiron bit, which I don't usually pay much attention to those, but this one, like, they zoom in on a woman and the Chiron was just great out of bed. And she like saw it and then she read it and then she thought it was hilarious, the funniest thing she ever saw. And then we go right back down to Eric Idle on stage with his guitar trying to sing Here Comes the Sun again. And again, Jane comes out and is like, we're going to just save this for later. We're not going to do this now.
I was like, oh, here's our runner for the episode.
Right.
Quickly followed by, I feel like this whole episode is a runner because everything is.
Yeah, because everything's so
it's so
interconnected.
Great. That's so smart.
He then says, well, let's have somebody else that doesn't sing normally do that. And he throws it to Joe Cocker.
This is an instance of one of their silly or funny intros actually working. Like this one was really good. It was fun to watch.
Joe Cocker sings You Are So Beautiful to Me. He did a great job. This is a Billy Preston song, right? This is written by Billy Preston. And it was one of his songs, right? This charted for him, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about Joe Cocker a bunch because of Mad Dog and the Englishman and Belushi's impression. But yeah, Joe Cocker was huge those late 60s, early 70s and kind of took a dip in the early 70s. But yes, this song came out in, I want to say 74. And it was kind of like a resurgence for him. He got back on the charts a little bit. Here's a question. Is Joe Cocker just like the greatest cover artist of all time? Like he doesn't have really original tunes, right? All his songs
Little
are
Help
like,
from My Friends, which he's best known for covering a Beatles song, right? Yeah. Wow.
You Can Leave Your Hat On in the 80s is a Randy Newman song. He covered Bob Dylan a bunch. Feeling All Right is a Traffic song. The Letter, is The Letter a Joe Cocker song?
I don't know. She
Came In Through the Bathroom Window, not a Joe Cocker song. Anyway.
Before I get to Joe Cocker, can I air a quick grievance?
This is a safe base, of course.
All right. I have a little grievance. So when Brad and I, just to kind of open up the curtain here, Brad and I, we kind of email back and forth. We kind of go over like my appearance fee and all the particulars and all of that stuff. And Brad's a great negotiator. I'm doing this for free.
Can't wait to see where this is going.
He asked me if I could do the Eric Idle Boz Scaggs episode. And I was like super excited. I was like, hell yeah, Eric Idle and Boz Scaggs. Boz Scaggs is the musical guest for the Eric Idle. Oh, this is going to be awesome. I mean, Joe Cocker and stuff is fine, but I was so deflated when I saw that Boz Scaggs was not the musical guest. And I'll tell you what, my mom gave me Silk Degrees, the Boz Scaggs album on vinyl.
Did you throw it away like Gary did?
I returned it.
Oh,
I loved it. That album,
of course,
by the way,
you did.
came out a few months.
Because you love Neil Sedaka, and that's why you would like Boz Scaggs. Of course.
I loved Neil Sedaka, and Boz Scaggs is like a better version, if you could believe that.
I believe you said last week he out Sedaka Neil Sedaka in his performance last week.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. And so my point was, I think you owe me a really quick Boz Scaggs review.
Please. I you know what? We will cut it into our episode 2.
You leave it here.
Can we backtrack, man? Did I really fuck up the episode when I called you?
Yes, you did. So this is not a bit. This is not a bit. I was so excited about Boz Scaggs. So I went and watched Boz Scaggs in the Norman Lear episode. So
what did you think?
it was the Boz Scaggs that I love. It was like classic Boz Scaggs. So the first song, Lowdown, great choice for the first song, is one of his hits. Like awesome energy, funky. Like that's what you're going to get with Boz Scaggs. You're going to get funky and fun. Great first song, Lowdown. Song number 2, What Can I Say? Honestly, not the obvious choice, but it was a good one for the Boz buds out there who just love Boz Scaggs. What Can I Say? Exciting choice. Admittedly, it's probably best to listen to Boz Scaggs at a wine cooler pool party, but he's just like great. Like he was awesome. My only complaint is that, and I don't know if you guys would agree with this,
you wanted Lido Shuffle?
He didn't perform Lido Shuffle.
Thank you.
Which obviously should have performed Lido Shuffle, maybe in place of Lowdown, because as I said, What Can I Say was just such an interesting choice. And if you scoff, because I can see you guys scoffing at the funkiness that I'm talking about, but I watch both performances anyway, and that's my Boz Scaggs review. Unironically, love Boz Scaggs, so it's fine, Brad. You got mixed up.
I just want to thank you for not emailing me and saying, "Hey, Brad, by the way, I think you may have mixed up the episodes," but holding on to it for months.
No, it was going to be more public than that. For sure. As far as Joe Cocker, it was fine.
He makes John Belushi seem coherent. I mean, come on, guys.
It made it evident how good Belushi's impression is.
Yeah.
Watching this performance, I didn't really actually like the herky jerky arrangement of the song. It kind of threw me off. I liked kind of the standard version of it. So quite honestly, like the arrangement of You Are So Beautiful to me, like I didn't really love, but it was fine. I like watching Joe perform.
The song felt like the band felt that they lost Joe and they just faded out on their own. And he kind of realized it. And he's like, oh, I guess the song's over. And he drifted away.
Yeah. And he kind of backed away from the microphone.
He's like, oh, it's done. Oh, okay. I guess we're done. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. That's what Thomas and I are going to do at the end of your next rant about whatever.
Yeah. I hate you both.
In fairness, I'm the one who just ranted, so we'll give Brad a pass for the next one.
To this next bit, after Joe drifts off the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it matters, but we get our first Baba Wawa of the season.
This is our first. I guess it is the first one of the season.
Of the season, yeah.
So it's just Baba Wawa to camera saying goodbye to NBC as she's about to start her journey at ABC. This felt like filler to me. It was like, we're short 2 minutes. There you go, Gilda. Do the Barbara Walters 2 camera bit.
I feel like this was the show wanting to give the audience something they wanted, like here's a bone. Because Barbara Walters left in the summer and she did give kind of like a goodbye video. And it's kind of, I think, a little bit of a play on that. So this is probably something they had in their back pocket. And then to your point, okay, we need a quick filler. Let's put it on this. Especially, people are watching Eric Idle. Let's throw it on here and give the people at home something they want to see.
Or maybe they had it for the first 2 shows and just didn't have time, and they had time this time.
Oh, maybe, because we talked about the Norman Lear going long. So, yeah, maybe you're right.
Man, this Baba Wawa bit that Gilda always did never really landed with me. It was a kind of a one-note joke.
Really?
I never really enjoyed this. Yeah, like the whole joke isn't that funny to me. Especially here, it was just totally one note. And like, okay, she pronounces things with the W. Yeah, what else? I don't know. It was just kind of filler. Gilda's hard to dislike, though, so it was nice seeing her up there. But it didn't really. I didn't think it was that great or funny.
I mean, I agree with you. They are one note. I do like them. I think it does take a certain smartness in the writing to write the precise words you need for the jokes to come off right. And I think they do a really good job with it. Like I kind of give some. She does a great performance, but you have to write it the right way. And I think they do it really. When it hits, they do it really well.
But then we go to Weekend Update, hosted once again by Jane. And Jane starts on the phone like Chevy does, again, answering the questions of Chevy's lover, let's just say. And her joke gets a bigger reaction than I think any of Chevy's phone jokes have to this point. The audience loved it. And I think the audience really loved most of this Weekend Update. Like they were really into this.
Yeah. I mean, a little stronger for her after last week. Yeah.
I thought this was a very good Weekend Update. And even early on, like this is very early, of course, in Jane's time at Weekend Update. I just enjoy her. I enjoy her delivery. I thought Jane did a great job here. I thought the writing was actually pretty strong for the most part in this update. I thought this was a really strong update.
When we talked last week, we weren't sure when exactly the call was made the week before that Chevy wasn't going to be on the air. So we were wondering how much of update, even though it doesn't get written till later in the week anyway, but like how much of it was written for Chevy's voice. And last week was a little bit uneven. It was also her first time behind the desk, but I feel to what you just said, yes, like it's written a little bit more for her voice. She's a little bit more confident in what she's saying in the delivery. And I think overall, yeah, it works a lot better. Even the reoccurring bits, the artist renditions, which they used, I don't know what, 5 or 6 times with Patty Hearst in season 1 and had gotten tired of. It somehow felt fresh in this episode. Maybe because they weren't doing the funny voices gag, because it used to be like they tried to force too many jokes in the gag before where there were the artist renditions and then Chevy would do some kind of weird voice. This time they kept it wide. You saw Jane basically delivering the news straight. And I like the fact that this time too, that since they were written in colors, it actually felt more like a little kid drew these.
But there was no setup to it. She just started talking about the Ali Norton fight, and then they pop up. And so it's kind of a surprise too. And you're like, oh, this is funny. And they keep going with them. And it was, I just thought because there was no setup and the whole silly voice Chevy thing, it was much better. It played
much better. Yeah.
This delivery, this setup was perfect. It just slayed me seeing the crayon sketches of the Ali Norton fight. That was so good. One of the first great bits of this.
And the audience loved it. Like the audience really liked this piece.
I think it was so great.
It was.
And it was just smart overall. They had a great Telly Savalas joke about groups protesting content when he's bald, which he always is. And they had a really good joke about West Point and the honor system it was like a nice long joke that had a great payoff. It was just a really, really smart. And like Thomas said earlier, just well written.
It was.
Yeah.
All of Weekend Update was.
Yeah. Even Garrett was coherent.
Look, Garrett was pretty good for a correspondent. So he's in Florence in front of the statue David, where they find that someone had come and circumcised the statue. And he has friend of the pod, Alan Zweibel, come on as a rabbi.
But he does a great reveal. Like you said, he's standing in front of David saying all this. And then he does his reveal. He turns to the left and like opens up. And then you see David with a sling wound.
Covered with bandages.
Yeah. It's a great reveal.
Jane, I'm standing in a historic place which has many works of priceless art. If you remember, a few years ago in Rome, someone damaged Michelangelo's Pietà. Well, again, a brutal act occurred here this morning when a man wielding a hammer and chisel snuck into this museum and, when the guards weren't looking, circumcised the statue of David. Now, police are at a complete loss as to who did it, and while it may have been done for health reasons, museum officials doubt that the statue will ever really be the same. This is Rabbi Maya. Tell me, Rabbi, it's covered right now, but did you see the statue before the bandage was applied?
Yes, I did.
And as a clergyman, what do you think of the culprit's act?
In my opinion, he did a beautiful job.
This is Garrett Marsh reporting. Now back to you, Jane.
And when Garrett says, he just kind of quickly says, and though it may have been done for health reasons, like I thought that was just so clever. And Garrett didn't make it. His inflection didn't necessarily call that out. I think it was like trusting the audience to just kind of pick up on that and laugh. So I actually think Garrett did a great job here. I prefer it to a lot of the news reporter stuff that we get in Update in the early seasons.
Well, we also get a live commercial from Dan during Update.
We go back to Dan. We go back to a mid-update commercial. Yeah.
And this is Dan doing a commercial as a pharmacist for Epifix, which is a shot you give yourself to relieve headaches. I felt like there were jokes in this that went by me. I wasn't sure what they were. I don't know.
I just couldn't understand this sketch. I don't mean it in a bad way. Like, this has to be O'Donoghue. It just screams like O'Donoghue Aykroyd writing because it's just so bizarre and out there. And by the end, when he takes the rubber tube and ties it around his neck to demonstrate giving the injection, I literally yelled when he then took the pen and like went into his upper lip to what do you call it, or inject himself. I I don't like needles, but I yelled. Like, Dan's commitment to this was nuts. And all I could think of is like, holy shit, this little sketch is
well, he's
so
playing the
out
whole
there.
sketch like, rolling up his arm, rolling up his sleeve as though he's going to inject himself in the arm. And then he ties it around his neck and injects himself in the gums, like you say. And it is kind of shocking. And he yells. And
I think the clinical nature of Dan's delivery juxtaposed with the darkness of, especially at the end of what he did, I think that was the comedy, those two side by side, and just Dan like navigating the pronunciations of a couple of those things really well. Just like watching Dan cook and then having it be dark, but having somebody explain something really dark in a very clinical way. I think that really works. I think Dan's like the only cast member who could have done something like that.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
As usual, I like that it was live, and I'm intrigued to see as the season progresses if they keep interrupting Weekend Update, if they stick to doing these live commercial bits, because I feel like they actually do play better here than say, we're going to be back after this filmed message and then cut to a live commercial. Like the pre-taped commercials work good for those, but I'm interested to see if this is where we see a lot of the live commercial sketches this season. Like if they try to find a home for him here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely works better here than a taped commercial does.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come back and we have one more live bit still that Jane throws to. She talks about Johnny Carson's 14th anniversary, which I guess was a big deal on NBC. And then they show a clip, quote unquote, of Ed Ames. Apparently had a bit where I don't know this bit. So
you
it's
don't know
Ed
this
Ames.
Bit? You've seen this bit.
I don't.
It's a real bit where he does, I'm going to show my axe throwing capabilities. And he throws the axe at a silhouetted figure on a wooden board, and he hits him in the balls. And then Johnny milks it for all he can for about 2 minutes. It's funny in general. The point of this really is, and I think this is the start of many times that the show starts taking swings at Johnny. Earlier this summer, he was interviewed and basically ripped the cast, talking about how they couldn't his line was something like they can't ad lib a fart in a bean factory or something of that nature. But it was all of this SNL getting ready to take over, or Saturday Night rather. He was interviewed by Tom Shales, and that was his quote. And so there's a lot of times this season, the show starts taking jabs at Johnny Carson now. And this is the first time we see it.
Well, I think Jane played it really well then, because I was kind of confused as this was going along, but Jane's tone conveyed to me that it was like commentary on Johnny's show, like somewhat negative commentary.
She has a definite negative tone.
So even though I didn't understand necessarily the joke, what they were going for, Jane conveyed the point.
Well, we come back from that to Lorne at his desk talking about the proposition he made to the Beatles last season and how he got a call from Eric Idle who said he could get the Beatles. He just has to send the check to Eric Idle in advance. So this was all a big, long intro to the Rutles film.
I like that they're still hitting up this bit a little bit. It's kind of funny, especially now knowing the fact, too, that Mick Jagger's in the house that night.
Well, and it's a great, again, keeping everything flowing from one to the next. It's a great way to introduce this film and not just play this film, right, or whatever. But then we get the Rutles film, and it's of them performing their song, I Must Be in Love. I thought this was great. This was so much fun, just total play off of the Beatles, and I've always liked this.
It's one of those bits where it isn't funny to me, but it's fun, and I enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like laugh out loud, like this is hilarious comedy, but it was just so much fun to watch. Like I sat there and just enjoyed watching this Beatles parody, and I think it was a good, I mean, not everything has to be funny on SNL for it to work for me. And this is a perfect example.
But you were familiar with this before watching it, right? In this episode or no?
I had heard of it. I heard references to it. I just recently read a Beatles book by Rob Sheffield, and he had referenced the Rutles.
Yeah.
And I think I looked up a video because I wanted to know what he was talking about. But I mean, I think it was nice parody, and it was kind of funny, but it was more so just interesting and fun to watch.
But what about the last bit where he's talking to camera and then the car's driving away faster and faster?
Oh, that part was funny.
I would think that you really liked that.
That part was funny.
From these streets, very close to the cavern Rutland, came the fabulous Rutland sound created by the Fab Four, Dirk, Nasty, Stig and Barry, who created a musical legend that will last to lunchtime. They were discovered by their manager, Leggy Mountbatten, in a lunchtime disco very close to these streets. Their first album was made in 20 minutes. The second took even longer. Tonight, we examine the legend of the Rutles. We look at their lives, their loves, their music. We examine some of the problems that made them what they are today. We also ask the question whether these people shouldn't really have been doing something better for their money. And we shall be asking some of the people who work with them whether they really were the sort of nice, lovable people that they were made out to be. Tonight, we shall be also speaking to many of the people who...
But no, this really starts the big Ruttle craze, is seeing it in this episode.
Craze.
That's a pretty big, if you think of Eric Idle, I think most people will know Eric Idle and the Rutles. It's a pretty well-known bit, no?
I would not call it a craze.
Craze is wrong.
Yeah. I think more people know him from Monty Python.
I was going to say, I would venture to guess that more people might know him from Monty Python.
They might.
They do.
I hate you too. You know what? This is a good time for me to step back and you two talk about the next sketch.
Oh, I should say, Thomas, Brad doesn't understand World War II. So he has no idea what's going on in this next sketch. Spot.
Yeah, Gary, do you want to explain this one?
Sure. So we open with Lorraine singing with a heavy German accent on top of a piano. And the camera pulls back and we are on set back at home base, Brad.
Oh.
But we have an extra wall. It's not just home base with some tables this time. They have like an extra brick wall to make it look like some German bar.
I'm upset by two things already. One is that this is on home base. But two, it took me far too long to realize that was home base.
So you're upset with yourself?
Yes, with myself. That it took me far too long to realize this was back on home base.
Part of it's because they added this extra wall. And I mean, you're not used to seeing home base with swastikas all over the place. So maybe that's it too.
Maybe just in the Malcolm. That's a season 6 thing when Malcolm McDowell hosted.
So then Eric Idle very sheepishly comes down the stairs and sees Dan Aykroyd, and they start giving each other codes because they're both spies. And some of them were funny, and I didn't write them down like I meant to. And then they go on to talk about their plans and who's been killed and what other spies have been killed. And they keep getting interrupted by the barmaids.
I need you to explain the ending to me in all seriousness. So as you said, they're whispering to, so they do the passwords out loud so everybody can hear them. The barmaid drops a beer, walks away. They whisper to each other their plans against Hitler.
Yep.
And then at the end, they lose track of their conversations and they yell to each other. Dan yells to him, "Then we steal a plane and kill Hitler." And it's as if they get caught.
Yes.
And then John, dressed as an SS officer, walks up to their table and says, "I need to say something or tell you guys, I am Inga." And that's how the sketch ends, correct?
Yes.
I did not
just understand.
What? But okay, I didn't
think you just explained it.
Right, but what
oh, good job. All right, moving on.
No.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I know. I actually agree with Brad here. I think it was kind of it felt almost like a half a sketch to me.
Yes.
And it was a very abrupt kind of ending. I think it was just kind of Dan showing off again in this sketch, which I appreciated. I mean, he was so smooth here, and it was just him like being able to go from being this covert spy to out of that character and then back in. So him kind of going between a couple of different things was impressive to me. But no, I agree with your sentiment, Brad. Like, it felt unfinished and a little confusing at the end.
It's still a really funny bit to what they do. It just, they just didn't stick the landing a little bit, but it's not like it's a bad sketch.
Oh, I agree. Like, I think there are funny elements to the sketch, but it just it went nowhere.
Yeah.
Much like Eric Idle's next bit, where he comes out as an Australian singer singing Rover the Drover. And he's singing that with
cork,
big
cork thing.
Outback hat with corks dangling from it. And Garrett comes out and does the same thing that Jane had been doing earlier in the night of saying like, "Oh, this, whatever, we'll play this later."
And Eric still buys into it. He's like, "Oh, we'll do it as the encore." Okay.
Yeah.
It was funny. Like, he's still buying into it's going to go later.
After 4. Oh, Oh, Rover the drover is not what he seems, 'cause he stole the heart of the cow of my dreams. Rover the drover won't come back no more, 'cause he stole the heart of the cow I adore.
Eric,
Yeah?
this song is so deep.
Yeah.
I think we ought to save it for the end of the show, baby.
It's too strong for here.
Yeah, man.
I'll do it as an encore.
Yeah, right.
I'll do it as an encore, okay.
Oh, yeah, what should we do now for the people, you know?
Well, maybe we better let Joe Cocker sing again.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, Joe Cocker again.
Yes, they introduced Joe Cocker, and Joe Cocker walks on, and there's 2 microphones on the stage.
Yeah.
And I'm just like excited.
I felt the opposite.
I mean, this is one of my favorite bits they've done of all time. I mean, I love John. I love this impression. So I've seen it so many times. So like, I just like, here we go. Let's watch.
I don't know. I still am like, I don't know why I need this during a musical performance. I know that it is Joe Cocker.
You didn't love watching him do Cocker next to Cocker?
No.
Okay.
Because I have never, and I've seen this before, and I've never felt like Joe Cocker was all as into this as John Belushi is, or as apparently you are. Because at the end of this, like John Belushi goes to like give him a hug or whatever, and Joe Cocker turns and walks away. And he's just like,
you can't put any faith in anything Joe Cocker did on that stage. He didn't know who was next to him. He thought it was himself.
I don't think that's true.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Gary's been kind of a grump.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas.
I actually thought Joe Cocker had a sense of humor about John's impression. He didn't look. I think I saw him look at John and kind of like smirk a little bit. I think it seemed like he was enjoying as much as Joe Cocker can emote when it's not like super intense. And I had the takeaway that Joe Cocker had a sense of humor about this impression.
Well, I think Joe Cocker obviously has a sense of humor about this, or else he wouldn't have come on the show and done this.
And to be fair,
he just can't emote.
Joe Cocker was not in a good place at this point. Like, I think he was like tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And like we had said, his last quote unquote successful tune was You Are So Beautiful, which was like 1974. He had a new album out. It wasn't like he was riding high, but you know, the smirk you mentioned, I love it. It's like John walks off stage, grabs a beer, is chugging it, and then walks over and goes to hand it to Joe Cocker. And he kind of gives him that little smirk and waves him off. Joe Cocker's like, I can't possibly put anything else more in my body right now. It was my favorite part. Actually, no, I lied. My favorite part was then Joe Cocker sings the next verse and John Belushi's in the background just like dancing and smiling and just like loving life. I don't know. I love this sketch. I can't believe you don't like it.
It's funny because the beer thing to me, I had the exact opposite reaction where I was like, Joe Cocker obviously doesn't want this. He doesn't seem like he's crazy about the way in which John Belushi does this. And he just kind of like turned away from it. And if you watch it, like John puts his hands out like to give him 5 and Joe Cocker does not.
I attributed that to Joe Cocker being out of his mind. Maybe I'm wrong.
The next sketch was like looking forward as we have a Dragnet sketch and Dan's playing Joe Friday for the first time, I suppose, with his partner Saturday Morning, I believe is what he called his partner.
Well, Dan played Joe Friday's nephew in the Dragnet movie. Right. So he gets to play multiple generations of Joe Friday. I appreciated that Dan Aykroyd, we see him as Joe Friday here like 11 years before the movie.
So they are playing literal Dragnet as Dan and Eric Idle come on screen in dresses.
It was a perfectly ordinary Sunday. My name's Friday. My partner's name is Saturday Morning. She can only work weekends. We were engaged in routine police business. Washing up, ironing, sewing. The time, 3:15. The place, headquarters. The hairstyles by Mr. Ray of Vidal Sassoon. The phone rang. It was Lucille Ball. We didn't answer. The phone rang again. This time it was Motorcycle Officer Harvey Goldblatt.
Hello. Right. Okay, we'll be right there.
they do this whole pre-tape thing or pre-filmed thing of them leaving the police station, and Gilda's there dressed as a police officer, and they just make their way. Oh, Garrett too, right? Garrett's
the cop on the bike sitting in a white dress, a white cocktail dress on the bike. And they say, why didn't you go in? And he says, oh, I have a run in my pantyhose.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And then they leave to go in the apartment, and then we cut back live to them.
Right. Because someone is impersonating an officer.
Right.
So they go in, they interrogate Lorraine, who says her husband's not home. She's not married, blah, blah, blah. And then John comes out in drag in the same dress that Eric Idle's wearing, or frock, as Eric Idle calls it. And John just breaks the fourth wall. And he's like, Eric, Dan, this isn't working. Drag's not funny in America, he says to Eric. And that's the end of this part of the sketch.
Yeah.
And Dan and Eric walk off set. And I think Lorraine comes back on and talks to John. And he's like, well, whatever, let's just, Lorraine's like, what are we going to do now if we cut this sketch short? John says, oh, we'll just show a film. And they show a film, which then is Eric and Dan in like ladies' undergarments this time. And they have it's a drag race. Like the whole setup for the film is it's a drag race. Sorry.
Drag race today or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And the whole drag race then is Eric and Dan in women's lingerie running a foot race in heels.
Well, watching it, because I had known, of course, like there's the image of Eric Idle and Dan running in drag is kind of a popular still image that I've seen of like, or they'll show SNL retrospectives and kind of show this, but I didn't necessarily, to be honest with you, know the context behind it. So I was kind of annoyed initially when I was just like, is this just going to be a big drag pun or whatever? But the only thing that saved it was them calling that out. They acknowledged it, and that's the only thing that worked for me. If it would have been just some straight like, oh, Dragnet, you get it? Haha, they're in drag. And now drag racing, look at that. It's funny, they're in drag, right? But the only thing that saves it is the actual commentary and the acknowledgement, again, of like British versus American humor. There's a fourth wall break. I thought it was an example of the interesting pacing and rhythm to this episode. So the actual drag stuff is just secondary. It's not even, you're not even supposed to think that's funny, because I think that's the point. I think the point is the lead up to them calling that out.
They do a really funny, again, kind of meta piece at the end of the drag race where Dan looks at Eric and says, it's still not working. He's like, oh no, they're laughing. He's like, no, they're not laughing. How do we know they're laughing? This is on film. Yeah. And like, well, let's stop and listen. And then they just show the two of them. He's, oh yeah, they're not laughing. So like, there are little bits that are really funny in this.
Well, and then it carries through too. Like the audience is applauding the film as it fades to black, and they go to an audience Chiron thing, and then it comes straight down to John on stage, still in the dress.
Yeah.
It might not work for comedy, but maybe it works for introductions, and he introduces stuff.
Well, I like what John said to Lorraine, though, when Lorraine said that, like, you look nice or you're wearing a dress or whatever. And then John said, well, I just wear clothes well. Some people do. Like, it's just his delivery of that, which is so wonderful. It was just
I forgot that that's where this came from. I've had that line in my head literally for like 25 years. Like, some
I just wear clothes well.
I just do. Yeah. It's so funny. I've always knew that Belushi line. I forgot that it was from this.
It was like the perfect response to that.
And I thought I had read somewhere, and I couldn't find it when I was going back again for this exact episode, but that John really hated this sketch of being in the dress. I couldn't find it. I remember reading it, but it's like he really hated being in the dress and having to do this sketch in the dress. So I think there's a little bit of that real lifeness to it when they go meta and they break the wall of John telling Eric it doesn't work, because he really felt it. And then you kind of have that when he comes back and does the intro, he's very sarcastic and almost as an FU being like, maybe it works for an intro. I don't know. Like it's like one more jab of him saying this doesn't work. And then he introduced stuff.
Stuff were great. This was excellent.
I didn't mind it. The third musical number, like we had been talking, there's so many pieces in this episode to have three musical numbers, but yeah, they were great.
I thought it was pleasant. It just kind of washed over me, I think. I don't know. Really? Like it was just good background music, and they were good. They're very obviously very competent musicians, but they almost didn't look like they wanted to be there necessarily. I think they were so focused on their instruments that they didn't have any performance value to them, but I thought it was pleasant. It was fine.
I would say that with the exception of this performance, with that last sketch, the Dragnet sketch, as a whole, I think this episode starts to kind of...
This is where it gets bumpy, gentlemen.
Like we've been praising a lot, and I feel like things kind of go downhill a little bit.
You don't like the underworld sea, or what is it? The undersea world of Jacques Cousteau?
Or Pets and Petting. You know what it was? I couldn't understand what the hell was going on. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's really funny. They do this. They introduce it as a TV show, right? The undersea world of Jacques Cousteau, and you're on a aquarium.
Yeah.
And then you see a little toy submarine go down, and there's a voiceover by John. And as he's going in talking about it, it basically turns into a new sketch. They start panning or pulling out, and the Jacques Cousteau sketch, without any rhyme or reason, turns into Pets and Petting, and it now becomes Eric Idle hosting a show teaching you how to feed your fish. And this portion of it is hilarious, with him feeding a meal and dumping clam chowder into a live fish bowl with fish in it, and dumping the cabbage and the salad and a bottle of wine and coffee. Like it's so absurd and so ridiculous. And then at the end, they push back in, and it's like, again, with no rhyme or reason, they go back to the Jacques Cousteau sketch, and John continues his voiceover about with visibility fading and darkness coming in, we had to end our search or whatever. It's so bizarre. This is another like Python-esque bit, I feel like.
I thought there was such a missed opportunity with this sketch. There was a chance, I think, for interplay between what Eric Idle was doing and the Jacques Cousteau voiceover.
That's what I thought.
They just totally ditched it. Like, we could have got Jacques Cousteau's perspective of the food going by his vessel, and it just didn't happen. It was just Eric putting stuff into the fish tank. By the way, I hope those fish were okay.
The fish were not okay.
Yeah,
said
it before, and I'll say it again.
You could not do this in 2023.
1976, baby.
We put wine, and I was trying to see, like, I watched it again, and I was like, was there a separate fish tank? But no, because I saw one of the pieces of food go in front of one of the fish. So there's that. I don't want to, but I thought it was just a missed opportunity. I would like to see the interplay between Jacques Cousteau and Eric Idle and have more of a melding in that sketch. As they did it, I didn't really enjoy this. Like, I don't know, just somebody dumping random things into a fish tank just didn't do it for me. I think it's just a missed opportunity.
I'm with you on this, Thomas. Like, it just, to me, I was like, oh, this is gross. It just looks like somebody vomited in this fish tank. And
that's so funny.
I had the same thought, like, oh, these fish are dead by the end of the show.
Because I was going to ask you guys, if they had taken away the whole kind of two sketch premise and just kind of came in and said, hello, welcome to Pets and Petting, and it was just Eric doing all this, you don't think it's any better as a standalone?
No. I think if you were to separate them, I think there was more room for comedy with the Cousteau bit. Like, I think you could have made that funnier than the dumping everything in.
Yeah.
Because I actually like the Idle stuff.
He could have described like wine from Jacques Cousteau's perspective in the vessel. He could have described cabbage and what that looked like from his perspective. And there might have been some jokes to be had there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because when I saw it, I think if you would have gotten rid of Jacques Cousteau, as the sketches already were, not trying to add to it, and it was just Eric Idle doing his thing, I thought it could have played pretty funny without the weirdness of the Jacques Cousteau. I liked him doing all the stuff to the fish tank. I thought it was pretty absurd and pretty funny.
Brad Robinson, animal hater.
Look, we get a Garrett solo to camera, Gary. Here you go.
Oof. Well.
Ooh.
Well, okay.
Yeah, warranted.
We get Garrett dressed as Ken Norton talking about his fight that he had with Muhammad Ali and how he didn't win the fight because he's not as entertaining as Ali.
Got that right.
These were all like things from their match after the fact. But he says the only way that he knows how to, outperform Ali is to sing. And so Garrett starts singing an opera, and that's it. That's this bit.
Garrett's a talented singer, but yeah, I don't really understand what was happening. And then they tried to meld like a boxing match and a pageant.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took a little while to realize that that's what they were doing, that melding. And then I wasn't really sure it was hitting. And then by the end, I was like, oh, this is basically a vehicle to let Garrett sing again. Is what it felt like. Like, that's how do we make it work? Oh, we take this boxing match, turn it into a pageant, all these categories. And then we get to the talent and we can show off Garrett's singing again.
The juice wasn't worth the squeeze, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And again, I'm surprised that it's another single 2 camera.
You're right. And the one before, I mean, Eric's thing was, and the next thing is, you brought it up earlier and I didn't really, put it in my mind, but you're 100% correct on this. Yeah. There's a lot of single to camera.
The next single to camera is just Lorraine, who I feel
poor Lorraine
is But she's totally transformed in this wig and glasses and like with this professor air that she put on this character that she starts playing.
No, you're right.
It's like nothing we've seen her do to this point.
I just feel bad. It's like 2 out of the first 3 weeks, Lorraine gets stuck with a shitty 10-to-1 sketch by herself that doesn't work. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, here's Lorraine by herself again, the last sketch of the night, or what I assume was the last sketch of the night. There's one little piece. And it's another clunker. And I was just bummed for her.
It had something there. There was a start to something and they just didn't really see it through and they rushed it through because what she's talking about, like archaeological finds of comedians throughout history and are there comedians throughout the solar system and how there's a tablet. Then what they've deciphered is it says take wife and then they're right. I think
they do, which I thought was like
all of this,
and they do a good job with their next bit is what like a flyover, and you could see down and cornfield or something. It says "Take my wife, please." I'm like, oh, they're really leaning into this.
Yes,
yeah.
Well, the first time they like talk about Peru and Machu Picchu, but they call it Machu Polco, which I didn't understand why. But they're talking about the connection with them and the "Take my wife," and then that's where you see the "Take my wife, please," and then they talk about 3,000 miles off of Peru, there's Passover Islands instead of Easter Island. So I think like there was the foundation there of jokes that they were like trying to put it all together. And it was just like, they needed to sit on this for another week, in my opinion.
Would it have helped if they made it, because it just dawned on me now, if they would have made it more obvious that they were specifically referring to like Borscht Belt comedians, because I think the whole "Take my wife, please" comes from that era.
Right.
So maybe they specifically were talking about those types of comedians, but it wasn't like obvious. So it just became more confusing than anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked the idea of this. I just felt the execution, it just needed more time. That's all.
Right.
Well,
did this need more time?
Yes. I don't know. I think it needed less time, actually. So we get is this our fourth? No, I don't hate them. This is another one where I like the concept behind the Pongs. And there are some funny ones and then there are some really bad ones. And I felt like this one, I don't know.
Not great.
Not great.
Yeah.
Right? Franken and Davis playing Pong. This was written by Zweibel though, right? Like, were all of these written by Zweibel?
I think he wrote a lot of them, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But we haven't seen him in a while. Like we saw like 3 or 4 very quickly in the first half of season 1, and then they've gone away. And now we've got a new one.
Yeah. And I think this is actually the whole subject matter behind this is similar to one that we saw earlier in season 1 of like one of them doing really well on a test and the other one not.
I feel like it was different. I feel like if they had this in their back pocket, we would have seen it before now. So I have a feeling this was a pre-season 2 where they were like, what can we do? Let's do a couple Pongs so we have them in our back pocket.
It's just filler. But
I did enjoy, and I really did pay attention to the juxtaposition of the game and what was happening in the game versus what they were saying. And remember that if they still do this the way they did in season 1 is they're saying it while they're actually playing it. So they have to time the dialogue out with the moves on the screen. So I'm just trying to give them some extra points for the actual technical difficulties of what they had to do.
Yeah, that's it. That's our last sketch of the night. And then we go to good nights.
And now Eric gets to play a song.
And now Eric gets to play his yelling, "Here Comes the Sun" song. All in all, I thought this was a really fun episode. I really enjoyed it in spite of that last, quarter of the show not being all that great.
100%. Really good show. Different. It's a total different vibe of the show, which is, I like going back and seeing these episodes are really fun where you watch the show take chances. You don't know what's going to happen, especially right off the bat with this, where they're stopping a monologue halfway through and walking you right to the next sketch and breaking down the fourth wall in the middle of a sketch and walking. It's all really good.
Yeah.
And, they have a great host. I like that you saw the cast a bunch, great musical guests. It's all there. It's all there for a really good episode.
Yeah, I think the energy and pace of the episode was engaging to me, and it was really entertaining. I mean, it felt different. It felt like an event, kind of like a cohesive kind of event to me. Did feel a little bit after the show that maybe this episode was greater than the sum of its parts in some way. There were a couple, the Joe Cocker thing was classic. There were some really good things, but it almost felt like just the overall vibe of the show and the energy of the show and the type of show that it was and the format almost eclipsed the sum of the parts, the actual specific content of the show, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And it's one of the things we talked about as we finished the first season and going into the second season. You're never going to get an episode that are all 10s. Like, not every sketch is going, it just doesn't exist. I don't think it ever exists. So yes, some of these sketches, they weren't all home runs, but as you said, the sum of the parts, it's much greater. It's a fun episode. It's really great. And what I would say to this that did not happen in week 2, I think what you really got is you got a chance to see what this show can be without Chevy Chase. Aside from that cold open on this episode, there's really not mentions of Chevy. They don't keep bringing it up, and you really get to see this new cast. And that's what I really liked most about this episode. The fact that Eric Idle did a great job, and it was fun to see that, but really getting a chance to say, okay, here's what this show can be once he leaves. We're in good hands.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like part of it was everyone kind of elevating their game of, they probably knew Chevy wasn't going to be back for the entire week, as opposed to last week when there was kind of like a, when is he or isn't he? And Eric Idle's there, right? So like they want to up their game for him as well. So
there's a lot to live up to. And they've all, at this point, John has got a chip on his shoulder and wants to prove he can do what he can do. He knows what he's doing.
Well, it was apparent when he has such a problem with the dress. And even though they turned it into a joke, it's like, no, that's the reality of it is, right? Like, he's kind of a dick about things that he doesn't want to do. Whereas Dan's like, whatever. All right, we'll do this.
Yeah.
I'll put on a dress and run around with Eric Idle.
Oh, and by the way, I'll be really good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's that.
By the way,
Dan was like my MVP of the show, man. Like, he's the one that stood out to me. He and Eric Idle, of course, respectfully, but out of the cast members, Dan just was firing on all cylinders to me.
I mean, the season's early, but I would say, the first 3 episodes in, I think Dan is holding things together right now.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I think he's been a standout in the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Well, Thomas, what are your best bits?
All right, best bits. I have a couple. So one's the AM/FM, definitely. Like I said, I'm a radio guy. It just near and dear to me. It's just Dan cooking. It's just such a fantastic sketch. So go check that out. And I would have to say Boz Scaggs from the Norman Lear episode.
Okay.
So yeah, AM/FM, and go check out What Can I Say from the Norman Lear episode. And we're golden.
Nice. Brad?
I agree. AM/FM. I will say the Rutles, not the Lauren intro, but just the film, the pre-tape film, the Rutles are my 2. But I'd also got a little asterisk. I would almost say watch this whole episode because there's so much going on. The interplay, it's kind of hard. Not that the sketches are that great, but just to see them do this kind of a show is really fun.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was AM/FM, hands down, was my favorite thing. And then the Rutles was the other one that I had. It's just a classic. But I thought all in all, it was a great show. I really loved the whole intertwining sketch to sketch. I just think that's brilliant. I love when shows do that, when sketch shows do that. So I was really, really happy to see it here. Well, Thomas, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Thomas.
It was a blast. Yes, it was a blast as always, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
And I believe that when this show drops, we're in the middle of a home and home with you.
Yes.
Because Brad and I are going to join you for an episode of SNL Hall of Fame as well.
Yes, Brad and Gary will be joining me on the SNL Hall of Fame for the Michael O'Donoghue episode. That'll be an interesting one. And I invite you all, especially Gary, not to hold back, because this Michael O'Donoghue episode, we're relitigating his Hall of Fame candidacy because he's been on the ballot for 4 seasons now. He was a season 1 candidate, and we're going to talk about Michael O'Donoghue, perhaps why he's not already in the Hall of Fame. And Brad and Gary will be joining me for that. So I'm very much looking forward to that. As you said, a home and home.
That'll be fun. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
It'll be great. Well, thank you, Thomas. We appreciate it. I had a lot of fun this week with you talking about Eric Idle. Hopefully you'll be back again soon.
Absolutely.
Thomas, you're so funny.
He is.
Thank you, Brad, with your Jane sarcasm. I picked up on that.
No, I love you, Thomas. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Sure thing, guys.
Next week, we're going to be talking about season 2, episode 4 with host Karen Black and musical guest John Prine.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
And have a pleasant tomorrow. So when anybody asks why Thomas is not invited back, It's going to be because he's the kind of guest that picks a Boss Skaggs number over the Rutles as best bits.
Everyone knows if Thomas isn't invited back, it's because you're just bitter about whatever.
Yeah.
It's because you've turned into the John of the show and your ego got the best of you.
That's right.
Oh,
one of us will wear dresses, Thomas, if that's appropriate.
If it comes down to that, I gladly. So I just wear clothes well.
Some people just do.
Some people
Thomas
just
does.
do.
I don't know what to say.